Hi Gemini, welcome to your April 2020 astrology and tarot scope. I hope you're all doing very well. This applies for Gemini, Sun, Moon and Rising. April is such an interesting beginning for you because it is a beginning of transformation in the way that you love. It's also a big turning point in terms of your money. And the two are going to be very, very, very much linked for the next 3 months. Really for the rest of the year, actually. This 2020 really wants to transform your intimate life. And it wants to do so in a way that you will no longer look at love the same. For some of you, that did a big transformation. Back in December, when we think back to your full moon, a lot of big changes came into play for the months that have followed since. And your relationships have been the main focus in many ways. But that being said, this is the beginning of a journey. And at the beginning of any journey, as is in April, you need to soften a little. You need to speak. You need to communicate. Your ruler Mercury is no longer in shadow. And I think you held a lot back in terms of what you were really feeling about something. Maybe you couldn't quite get to the bottom of it. Maybe you didn't quite understand it, or you didn't understand where it was coming from, but in April you start to understand that a little bit more. Mars is in Aquarius all month, and Mars squares off with Uranus in your 12th house, which is the psychological, which is the subconscious. Sorry, Gemini, I have to keep clearing my throat. I think it's something to do with your throat chakra, because it's only come on as soon as I did this reading, which is why I think maybe there's a lot of stuff that you need to clear in terms of communication. Uranus being in your psychological sector, your subconscious, as I say, and it's squaring off with Mars in Aquarius, which is your philosophical sector, is saying, Gemini, that you really need to figure out what it is that you really, really think in terms of the way that you have intimacy in your relationships, the relationships that you choose, the narrative that you put on them. Do you ever feel like you're stuck in a victim narrative, or do you ever feel like you're stuck in an emotionally avoidant narrative? Whatever it is, you're getting almost like a magnifier on your relationships for the next few months. And you don't always like to look at things that deeply. I get that. But Jupiter conjunct Pluto on the 4th is the first of 3 conjunctions with those 2 planets. And you're being asked, particularly with your investments, with your money, and even your Magician, King of Pentacles, the way that you choose stability, the way that you engage with stability, what you feel about stability. There could be a key earth sign in your life or another Gemini. Very important relationship. For some of you, there is this thing that you've been trying to manifest, and we talked a lot about this in the preview to Aries season for each of the signs. There's this thing that you've been trying to manifest, and it's something with long-term potential. You know, it is a new business, it is a new job, it is a child, it is a marriage, it is a union. There is something that you want that is not a flippant thing. And the reason, Gemini, that it's not connecting is because there is a level of intimacy that needs to be achieved. There is a level of depth that you need to go into in order to have this thing. Because the blockages that you have towards them are to do with the way that you connect. They are to do with the way that you let somebody know that you love them, or the way that you keep something going. Jupiter conjunct Pluto wants everyone to go after what they're passionate about. That's the thing. And as much as most of the world is on lockdown, this is the most important time to plant some seeds, or at least get the clarity going forward. Because in a busy, busy world, we oftentimes jump into new things without truly understanding what the modus operandi is. Venus in your sign is going to make you very, very, very clear on what that is. It will retrograde on May 13th. It will stay in your sign until August 7th, an extended stay. And I must say, as a Scorpio, when Venus retrograded in Scorpio, the last time it was in retrograde was 2 years ago. It was the very end of 2018. I learned a lot. I remember I took a break from dating. I took a break from most social activities. I really got to grips with what was going on with me in terms of my relationships, kind of a reset. And after I had reset, after years of confusion, yep, High Priestess, years of confusion and a lack of clarity and understanding, I finally got it, and my relationships changed since then. And they changed for the better. It was a real turning point. You can go through the same, and it's not necessary that you decide to stay single. It's not necessary that you decide to leave a relationship. No. This is a personal journey. And the High Priestess is saying, as the number 2 card, that you can undertake any journey with somebody else, particularly if it's an earth sign, a Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, or a fellow Gemini. They really want to support you, and they want to be part of your next step. And if it's a Pisces, they just want you to keep them in the loop. Okay. And anybody that sees you having a moment of transformation and sees you being kind of confused and decides to ignore you or ghost you or leave you is not part of your future anyway, and this is where the transformation begins. So, the full moon in Libra in your romantic 5th house on the 7th or 8th, depending on where you're from, is making you very clear, 6 of Wands, on how you deserve to be treated or what success would look like for you. Around that time, Mars in Aquarius squares off with Aquarius's ruler Uranus, which is in Taurus, that psychological spot. That psychological itch that really wants to be heard. There we have it. Taurus energy, Hierophant. You're committed to success. You're committed to your marriage or finding that person or starting that business. Here we have the King of Wands. If you are married to a fire sign, a Leo, Sagittarius, or an Aries, you seem to have the same goal in mind. So this is indeed, for many of you that are already married, particularly to fire signs, a two-way thing. The Five of Pentacles says you are committed to overcoming strife. You are committed to overcoming bad health, judgment. And the Knight of Cups. Wow, you're committed to your soulmate, your soul purpose. Knight of Cups and Judgment. The interesting thing that the world feels to see is that Jupiter and Pluto connecting wants you to understand, wants us all to understand how expansive commitment can be. I don't know if you can see that. The sun went way down, but Knight of Cups and Judgment. There is somebody who wants to love you, somebody you can't stop thinking about, someone who can't stop thinking about you, something that comes into your life. And I believe this came up as the exact same combination, Gemini, with Aquarius. And we don't have any Aquarian cards here, but what I'm seeing is that there is some overlap. The Knight of Cups and Judgment came up for Aquarius, and that is, as I've seen in many tarot readings, private readings specifically, Judgment and the Knight of Cups is often an energy of soulmates, someone that understands you, and it's oftentimes someone you've maybe crossed paths with already, not necessarily someone that just randomly pops into your life. For a lot of you, it is the fire sign you're committed to. For others of you, it's the earth sign you're committed to, and for some of you, it is looking, yep, Four of Pentacles, Nine of Cups. Looking at someone who's been around for a little bit in a different way. Could be a friend, whatever it is. Romantically speaking, that full moon in Libra is going to possibly put somebody in your line of sight that you think of quite differently. Or if you're currently involved with someone, it's going to make you speak on it. You're going to hold back how much, you're going to stop holding back how much of a blessing you think this person actually is. Sun square Saturn on the 21st as we move into Taurus season, where your subconscious really gets illuminated. Well, The Aquarian and Taurus squares are really asking you, Gemini, to get into that psychological itch of yours and see just who's down there. Maybe you can't go so deep. Maybe its illumination is... Oh, Hanged Man. Maybe its illumination is more to do with not going into the depth too much. As 2020 wants us all to do, we can only go as deep as we can, but it's all about having a different perspective on something. It's all about trusting the delays on something. Trust the delays, because they're setting you up quite nicely. Clarify the Hanged Man. Yep. Knight of Pentacles. Trust the delays. There is something, Gemini, that when you feel most like giving up on this thing is when it happens. And if that's the way it works out, it still wants to take you on a little bit of a journey in terms of your perspective on things. But it still happens. This is a wish. And we talked about this coming up in your season. 9 of Cups and the Hanged Man. A wish that's been delayed comes out, and it is certainly worth waiting for. Knight of Pentacles, and it's to teach you patience, because in order to sustain this thing that you've wanted for so long and has long-lasting side effects, in order to sustain that thing, you need to learn patience. You need to have a consideration and a compassion for the person in your life that has quite a desire for stability, even if that feeling bores you to death. For some of you, for sure, it's an earth sign. For some of you, fire. Even for some of you, water. Page of Cups, 4 of Cups, 7 of Swords. For a lot of you, there is in the past an indiscretion of yours that is the blockage. It is something you regret doing. It is something that makes you feel unworthy. It is something that makes you feel like you should have done something differently. Particularly if it involves children, you feel like you have been absent. Or if it's to do with the love in your life, you feel like you were sneaky. And I think it upsets you. I think the way that you treated somebody else, particularly if they were very much enamored with you, is possibly the blockage to the thing that you want the most. Because deep down, and again, as deep as I'm saying you can go, you don't feel like you're that worthy of it. But that has been part of your bigger picture to teach you patience. To teach you that hard work leads to healing, particularly if it's with a water sign that you want to communicate with. An apology would go a long way, particularly if it's a Pisces. And the full moon in Libra is making you a little bit more open about the way that you talk. And look at that, my throat has just cleared. That makes sense. You finally speak your truth. And if it is something that you just cannot tell people about, if it's something that you want to keep private, that you want to keep to yourself, well, maybe work through it with an objective person. Someone that won't feel emotionally attached to it. But I think if you need to say sorry to somebody, it's more than ever the best time. But if it is not that case, be prepared that an apology towards you from somebody, particularly if it's a parental figure, is what sets you free to manifest this thing. And that's when it happens. So I'm not saying that something just instantly falls in your lap like that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that, astrologically speaking, this year is all about adding depth and adding flavor and adding color to a situation where you've long wanted something real. And that you're starting to see where certain behaviors and certain attitudes have kept you separated. And dare I say, I think for a lot of you, you feel a lot more comfortable confiding in somebody who's not a close friend, who's not a confidant, who isn't a romantic partner, and you feel like they give you some sort of perspective. Be they some kind of earth angel or spiritual teacher, they give you a perspective shift. Or they at least point you in the direction of what it is that you need to know. Because you need to know something. Financially speaking, you also need a little bit of a wake-up call, and Jupiter conjunct Pluto is doing that, but it's going to reward you this year with satisfaction, better income, better sources of income, maybe more than one source of revenue if one is what you have. But there's a hard lesson there. it's sort of as we lead into Taurus season in particular and lead up to your season, it's sort of about taking things apart to see how they tick. And you are one of those things. When Mercury moves into Aries on the 11th, there is this reprieve in how you communicate. The full moon kicks it off though. But now that it's out of shadow, you feel better, like you can say what it is that you need to say. And I do think in Aries, you will be able to verbalize the wish that you want. The next few months are going to be so interesting with your energy in the sky. Particularly with the North and South nodes and Venus, I think a lot of it, in my perspective, is to do with reuniting soulmates, connecting soulmates, bringing soulmates together. But, you know, the twin flame concept, you are the twins. But I also feel, Gemini, that in order to get that, it's that there's just one more step. And I do think it's about you. If you are dealing with another Gemini, you in particular need to exercise some patience and possibly delve into that psychic side that you know you possess, where you can pick up their emotions, you can pick up their feelings, you can pick up their needs. If you're dealing with another Gemini, it almost becomes telepathic. But the wish that is coming is, as I say, long standing, and that's why it had to take so long. Okay? But it's coming. For some of you, you start to see the inklings of it in April. For some of you, you started to see the inklings of it towards the end of March, but I think for a lot of you, this is a Gemini season reward. But again, it could be Taurus season, or it could even take a little bit longer with the Hangman, Knight of Pentacles energy, but just trust that it's coming, please. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the extended. Bye, Gemini.